Hi everybody. In this video we're going to build up the box for the Homemade Hand Engraving Machine. In the last video modified the pump. I also decided to bring it out the side instead of up top, something different. So let's get started with this. I went ahead and pre-drilled all the holes because you guys probably know how to drill holes and locate your parts. If you don't, I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos that'll show you how to locate stuff. I use the fan as the template for lining up these 4 holes. So that was my template, 1 hole at a time. I got the first hole located, drilled, I put a screw in it to hold it in place. I located the second hole. Once I had it located, I swung it out of the way, drilled the hole. Tightened it down, located these 2 holes. Pulled the thing off out of the way, drilled those 2 holes. Then I drilled the larger holes out with these. Something else you can get at Harbor Freight. They're like $8 and you get all 3 of them in the package. And the only thing I don't like about them is the tips aren't very good. You need to pre-drill the hole, so get your calipers out. Figure out what size that is. That's 1/8 of an inch. So you drill an 1/8 of an inch hole, pre-drill it to use this one. Or you'd use a 1/4 inch hole pre-drilled for this one. So anyway, you get the idea. But you'll also, to get these holes, you measure the parts you're going to be putting in there. Get the dimension, find a drill, or use one of these to drill out your holes. Pretty simple. So let's get started building this thing up. We're going to wire it, run it, and press on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I cut a piece of foam. It's 2-inch foam to hold the compressor in place. So with the compressor in place, let's slide this down in here. There it is. Ain't going nowhere. Now, what I'm going to do next is put the power cord in. And with the power cord, you need a little grommet. So I get these grommets. This one's a 1/4 inch, depends on the size of your power cord. This power cord was free, so it's a 1/4 inch diameter power cord. So I'm going to pop this in place. And we're going to put our power cord through. I've already put some terminals on, so the terminal needs to go through first since it's the biggest, and then the rest of it can follow. And I'm going to push through enough wire to wire it, and then I can pull it back through to get my length. Alright, next I'm going to install the fan. The fan goes in with this in that direction. It shows you air direction going that way. I want it to pull the air through the box and right across the power head on the compressor, and the drag that air across the 110 to 12 volt power supply. Okay, let's get this in place. It's got 4 of these oddball screws that are for holding in these PC fans. So they don't come with it. Like if you order one of these from eBay, there's a good chance that it's not going to have these. So I played with computers for a long time, so I got all kinds of this stuff sitting around the house you may not have. So, but you gotta have these screws. Well, I guess you don't have to have them. You could use a longer screw and put a nut on it. I like them because they bite right into the plastic and you're done. They're quick and easy. So now we got the fan in place. Let's finish tightening her down. And I got the compressor, the fan, and the power cord in place. The lid I've already drilled out and put the speed controller. You got the power coming in and the motor, leads, an on-off switch, and I put the a fitting to go through the lid. Let's put this in place. Alright, now we can start wiring her up. I like to do it with the power supply sitting on the outside so you can work on everything. But the next thing we'll do here, almost forgot, is we'll put in the mono jack that I've already pre-wired, soldered, and get this mono jack installed for the tattoo foot pedal to turn power on and off. You don't need this. You can wire it up to where when you turn that power switch on, the pump runs, everything runs, and you really don't need this. It's just something I like to have. So if I walk away from this thing for a while, you know, once I let off that foot pedal, everything shuts down, except for the cooling fan. The cooling fan will stay running. Okay, let's tighten our mono jack down. And there you are. Well, the mono jack's installed. Power cord, mono jack, and PC fan. Alright. With the power supply out here, I can reach everything. So, let's just start with the fan. I've already crimped one lead on. I'm going to crimp on another one. What I like to do is put the terminal in the crimper the way I want to crimp it. Okay, I'm going to go from that side so it's ready to go. Now, with my wire, I like to fold the wire in half, kind of double up on the thickness of it. Because that's such a thin wire, but I definitely like to double up on the thickness. I stick it in there till it's even with the end of it, and I do the crimp. So, that's ready to go. Now, you've got a positive and a negative lead here. The negative, the black side, will go to a negative post are common, also called common on here, but it's the negative side. So screw out. Negative. Put the negative, and we want the other side of the fan going to the positive. Now the fan's hooked up. Now the power coming in, you got 3 wires. The white goes to line. The green goes to ground. There's a line, a neutral, and a ground. I don't know if you can see that, but so the black wire coming in is the line, excuse me, is the neutral line. So it goes up to the switch. So we're going to put the neutral on the switch. I don't have this switch keyed, so I can swing it around. Give me some clearance for that. Alright, that goes to there. Now, I've got a black wire that goes from the switch to the neutral on the power supply. So let's go from the switch side of the switch over to neutral on the power supply. So we've daisy chained the neutral through a switch so we can turn the power onto the power supply. That's all we've done here with the switch. Okay, white goes to line. So what we want to do is put a terminal on it, twist the lead, and I like to fold it over to double up on that because it just gives more meat in there to bite onto. Alright, get my terminal in place, stick my wire in till I can just see the end of it there, and crimp. Okay, now this is ready to go. This is ready to go to line on the power supply. These terminals are a little tight, but they still work. Now, if you get the horseshoe type terminal, you don't have to pull the screw all the way out. You just loosen it up, put that horseshoe terminal in there. I didn't have any. These are the ones I had, so these are the ones I'm using. The nice thing about doing this is the first one or two you do, you got almost everything you need except for a few things. And you don't have to buy a lot of stuff. You know, if you're like me, you've collected this all kinds of stuff through the years. Now, green goes to ground. Put a terminal on it. Folding that over. Terminal. Terminal in the crimp. And the wire up in here. Let's just start to poke through and crimp it. Okay, and this goes to ground. It shows a little ground. Or it'll say ground. I mean, every one I've got a couple of these, 3 of these now, and it seems like all 3 of them are different. They're the same but different. Kind of weird. Alright. Now, green to ground. Make sure your leads are tight, or your wires might get hot. Alright, power's hooked up, and the fan's hooked up. Now what we need to do is hook up the mono switch for the tattoo foot pedal and the speed controller. So the wires coming from the compressor go to the motor portion of the speed controller. Let's turn this around so we can see it here. There's power. These 2 leads are power at this end, and these 2 leads are for the motor, positive and negative. Once again, the negative is the wire with the writing on it. And I know that because this is what I cut off. When I unscrew it and take a look, that's the negative side right there. I follow it down and it's the side with the writing on it. So I'm going to keep it like that. If I was to reverse it, it'd probably just run the other direction. It really isn't going to hurt anything. But I'm going to hook this up the way it came from the factory, with negative and negative and positive and positive. So here's the motor negative, motor negative. Right-handed, I think I'm a little better. We have a negative lead again, right here. Alright, there's the negative. This one will go to the positive. Now the mono jack, we want one side going to power on the speed controller. So we'll take this lead to the negative, which is the inside one. Mono jack to the negative side of power on the speed controller. And then we're going to go from the mono jack to the negative side, to a negative terminal on the power supply. Go on the common, or the negative side of the power supply. 12 volts out, negative. Alright, all we have left here is going from the positive side of the speed controller You can also do this if you didn't have a power supply. You could just use 12 volts and go straight into this thing with 12 volts, like from a cigarette lighter or straight off a battery, and it'll run just fine. That's another mod you can do to this. You can actually install, this goes to this end here. That's what that screw is for. So we're taking a positive lead from voltage 12 volt positive coming out of the power supply to the speed controller. That's pretty much wired up now. Other than tidying up our wiring, which we'll do here in a minute after we check to make sure everything works. Right now we're going to hook up the 1/4 inch clear tubing. Run that through the cap. Put this little piece in the end. Bring the cap back down over it. That's getting tight. And down onto it a little ways where this will start. There she goes. Now a little snug it down a little bit. There we go. Now the whole thing is wired and ready to go. So I'll what we can do right this second, I'm going to close it up, turn it on, and let's see what she does here. Okay, let's use a pedal I've already got. Let's use this pedal here. It's already ready to go. Screw that in. Here's the tattoo. Stick that in the mono jack. Let's turn it on and see what she does. Nothing so far. Step on the pedal. Might help to plug it in. Alright. Well, here comes the smoke check. I'm going to plug this thing in. And she's running. Works. Yes, it does. So the smoke check worked. Now that I know that it works, I can tidy everything up. So let's get in here and let's make this wiring look a little more presentable. Not always easy. But what I use, is a string tie. And I'll just tie all the wires up till they're nice and neat. Start down here. A good spot. All these together. And this just cleans the wiring up so it doesn't look like a bird's nest. I just bundle it up until it looks fairly clean. Well, there's holes in this power supply, and I don't think I have the right size screws. You can do that, or you can just shove or cut the foam out to where it'll go down there and the foam will hold it in place. I'm just going to use a piece of foam for now. Perfect. So, okay, that cleaned that up some. Should be nicer, but now let's see how it closes up. Oh yeah, closes up. Everything's out of the way of the fan, and nothing's pinched because you don't want to kink. You don't want to kink your tube or cut any of your wires. It just cleaned it up a little bit. So there's that part of it. Now you've got a couple of different pedals that I buy off the internet. One of them is called a 3-port, which you don't need. I found out you don't need to plug that one. The other is a 4-port. If you get a 4-port, you got to plug that center one, and then it works just like this one. As you see, one's a PV0010, one's a PV0011. Whether you use these or not, like the guys who engrave all the time don't like them. They'd rather make their own. So what you have to do is there's several different fittings. You can use this type, which is a barbed fitting, to slide your tubing over. Or this type. And here's a little ribbon dope on it. Screw that in there. Here somewhere. These are 1/4 inch OD by 1/4 inch MIPs. LFA 23s. If you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, or Menards, they're pretty much they pretty much have the same stuff. So this particular one is the one I got for this. I decided to go with this type fitting instead of the barb, because there's a lot of different options. Do what trips your trigger. Fit. Now you're going to need some tubing. You don't want tubing to come out of I use a couple of feet or more. A little more than a couple of feet to come out of the box to go to the foot pedal. Just enough to reach somewhere close by so you can turn it on and off. And this part doesn't have to be too long. I haven't tried. I don't know how it will affect the machine if you have more hose, maybe twice the length of hose. I don't know if it's still gonna work the same or not. Haven't tried that. A lot of things I haven't tried yet. It's all pretty much new to me. So, okay, we have this. We've got the one at the other end. Fitting on first. Stick this in place. Slide this down on it. Give it a little tug. And you can barely see it, but this says in, so you'd screw that onto the in port. Now you want a little bit more hose here so that it'll reach from the ground and you can, or reach from wherever you have your pedal at to where you're engraving. So that needs to be a little longer. And one of these. Press that in real good. Screw that onto the out of your pedal. And with a handpiece, just force that into the hole because it's undersized, and it stays all by itself. You don't have to do anything fancy there. And now, get the foot switch back in place. I'm going to plug in the foot tattoo pedal. I'm going to turn this on. Fan's running, drawing air through it. This pedal seems to bring the air on good and slow. Oh yeah. It seems to have good control. I mean, it's good enough for me anyway. I'm sure if you were a professional you might not like it, but it saves me from building one. So there it is. That's how I put these things together. So in the next video, now we've got this thing going, I'm going to build one of these. So I'm going to show you how I build it, and I'm going to show you some shortcuts that you can use to make building one of these easier if you don't have the equipment or are afraid to cut threads, or you know, there's a couple of things that you can do to make building one of these easier. If you have a little mini or micro lathe, you're in business. If you got a buddy that has a little mini or micro lathe, you'll be in business. You don't have to know how to single point threads. But we'll get into that on the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.